Yarrabah, Ngamumu Merindi, Ngamumu Jule, Gubri Yalanji Nation. So my name is Merindi, my granddad's links are Jule, which is Daintree, and my nana's links are Gubri, which is Mossman. Currently here with brother Nathan, and I might just hand it straight over to him to introduce. Introduce himself. Yep.
Oh, anjara. You know, ngaji goran guri, ngaji bokol bama wago ja. Jajenji, ngajen bolba goro golo, kunganji, gaya bara gori, mugoi, yorono, ngaji goran mugoi gori, gapai gori, ngayo bama banjar, gaya bara. Ngajen bolba goro golo, kunganji, mermenai, mayawi, balawupi, ngajen bimbi, ngayo bama, ngajen kare-kare, golo kunganji, mugoi. Yingu bolma, jamblo walaburi mugoi nyenan, gimoi walabari yerenje, walaburi, yeraganji walaburi mugoi nyenan. So good morning to everybody. My language name given to me by my grandmother. My grandmother is Jajenji, and that's the Storytime Shark, because we're coastal people from Yarrabah. And just in my language, just introducing myself, telling you my ancestry and my connections to my people through my clan group, which is Gurugulu Gunganji. I'm also acknowledging the land which we're on and the old people that's originally here, that Yarrabah put here, and that's the Gimwoy Walabara Yirinji people, their ancestors, their current elders and their future emerging leaders as well, and also the Yarrabah nation as well, and same, the old people, the current elders and the emerging leaders as well. It's important that I do that because I'm currently living on their country, and that's part of what we do is we show that respect to one another. Yeah. So just want to say thank you to Sister for allowing this opportunity. And we have a yarn.
Let's have a yarn. You ready for yarn now? So Nathan, that was a beautiful introduction. I guess that kind of opens that conversation now about where you're from and in terms of your work line and your role as a cultural man, or as someone that's able to hand and pass on knowledge. How has that impacted your experience, not just as working, and where are you at? Yeah, let's just go from there.
Well, like I was saying in my opening, is that our people, my people, we've always been in the Yarrabah area. Yeah. That's our home, and that's where we've always been as a people, and it's still our home today. Yeah. My current form of employment is as a classroom teacher. Yeah. But specifically working in revitalising language. Beautiful. Yeah. So I've been in this current role for eight years now, and I feel very blessed and honoured to be in this particular role. But I love it. I love it. It's my passion. Culture, language, anything to do with our people is my passion. Yeah. And so being in this position where I can now transfer knowledge from our old people onto the next generation, and have the benefits of being paid to do that, it's for me it's a dream beautiful. Come true. And I guess that there would kind of just carry into, or would have carried into even before your work role, into your family life. Is that right? You've kind of embedded that culture and knowledge from day dot, since babies come along. just in our family, we were very fortunate to have a grandmother who was a very cultural woman. She spoke the language of our ancestors, but she practiced the culture every day. Even though we're in contemporary society, she still practiced the everyday culture of our people. And when I reflect on that, that's a very hard thing to do in this contemporary society. And for her, it was even more challenging because of the fact that she was doing it off country. She did it with our mob being in Yarrabah. She did it in Cairns, where we are now. So still being able to operate in those circumstances, but still being able to pass on that knowledge to us as kids growing up. So a lot of what I teach in the classroom today, it's being taught to me just through the family, just through everyday transmission of that knowledge.
And so you kind of transfer that now to your children. You got Cuddy.
Yeah.
So you make sure that's embedded from baby.
Something going through doing the teaching degree. One of the theories around working with kids is from a young age is to speak to them as adults. Don't speak to them in baby talk. And that was something I picked up at uni.
So none of the Google Gagas.
None of that. It was like just if you want them to learn in an environment, you treat them as they're going to be treated as adults. So specifically in terms of language, that was something that stood out from the theoretical point of view, from the academic world, and it really connected with me because in our culture, I can see the similarities. Children aren't there's a time and a space when children are allowed to be children, but there's also that time, the reality of us living in our world is we have to live out everything that we're doing. So if you're out on country hunting, you have to learn that by being out on country hunting. You don't learn it in a book, So in that sense, there's a kind of a alignment with, treating our kids as if they're adults. So that was definitely something that aligned with what my grandmother taught us. Was we were treated as adults. We weren't treated as kids. So when she taught us, it was, you need to know this because this is for real, and it's for the rest of your life. What you learn now, you'll carry this for the rest of your life. And those teachings I then have passed on to my own kids. Is exactly that. I don't talk to them as kids. And when I talk to them, I explain to them because it's all about them being able to carry themselves without me. That's the whole transmission that I see of our culture. Is what I learn from my old people, but I don't hold on to it. I got to pass it on to the next generation so that they can carry it and they can stand strong for themselves. And without that passing of that knowledge, they fall. And
so with your role, I know because for those that don't know, Nathan is my brother-in-law, so we've got some connections there. And so just to be able to see you evolve as a language man, but also even before your work, you're also bringing in your dancing and all of that. So how did that kind of evolve, and how is that being projected to the children now?
Like you say, currently my focus is around language and my development as in the last 8 to 10 years or however long the journey's been. There've been big improvements. We're still a long way to go, but we're on that journey, we're on that road. But prior to that, with the dance, that's another thing that was passed directly from not only from my grandmother, but from aunties and uncles, and just through our staying connected with family. For those times of gathering where dancing and celebrating was happening, and just being in and amongst that, growing up in and amongst that, and knowing that that's part of who I am, and absorbing taking all that in, then in my own time, having my children, exposing them to the exact same things.
Yeah.
You know, so there's family gatherings where we get together, you know, for weddings, for birthdays, for, you know, times of where we're all just together having a feasting in the time of celebration, and dancing is part of it. You know, and so, like I said, when my kids entered the world, they automatically were involved in that circle of learning.
So it's not just a project. It's a living.
Yeah,
it's your life.
It's everyday life.
It's not just an art or performance. It's,
no.
It's cultures embedded from day one. Yeah.
And you know, and there's
It's
all different.
beautiful.
There's all different types of levels of interaction, you know, with the kids.
Yeah.
And that's something I've never, with my own kids, I've never been in that situation where I've pushed it on them. It's always, this is what we do.
Yeah.
You know,
when they're ready.
You know, and they can come and sit and just watch, because they're still part of that, you know, us being together and us celebrating and us practicing our culture.
Yeah.
You know, or if they show interest and they say, oh, I want to hit the bibra, I want to hit the clapsticks. Well then, I've got clapsticks there ready for them. You know, can I have a go at the yiggy, the didgeridoo? Yeah, of course. You know, and that way, it's more real life. It's not like you know a set time or a prescriptive time when you got to learn this, when you got to learn that. It's like you show me when you're ready, and I'll show you how to do it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a natural sort of a process. Of learning.
And so, you know, you were talking before, you mentioned something about how hard it would have been for your grandmother, you know, to be able to live in the contemporary society. You know, how do you feel like that's impacted you from when you first started your language to where you're at now, you know, and even just from when you first started dancing even to where you are now? How do you think that's impacted your journey in keeping culture, you know, alive and keeping that, like just some of the pressures or even just whatever, you know, the changes in society?
The way I view, there's two parts for me in answering this question, and one part is to look at contemporary society and what it is, and the second part is to go back to our ancestry and see how we've, adapted over time, because you know, for our mob to be around for so long, we have to make adaptations. So the way I view the way I answer this question is to look at it, is to know where my strength is. My strength for me is my ancestry, and knowing in that we've been on country not just for 100 years, not for 200 years, but for thousands of years. How have we done that? You know, we've done that by intimate knowledge and working together with each other. You know, and when you compare that against contemporary society, that can be challenging, you know, because in this contemporary society, it's a lot of, well, just me, myself, you know, I want to do this, I want this, I want that.
A bit like me, myself and Irene.
So that's a sort of a challenge.
It is a challenge.
In trying to get around that. But in the same token, we can use contemporary society and the tools of contemporary society to adapt what we do, and just take out bits and pieces of what's available now, but still do what we do in our way. You know, so for example,
and keeping it respectful at the same time.
You know, so for example, some of the resources that we develop now, you know, they're contemporary tools that you know we didn't have, you know, 500 years ago. But the way in which I use that tool, for example, you know, if it's an animation tool that's telling one of our stories, you know, old time story, it's our story. We have the permission to tell that story, and we want to share that story with our families. But how do we do that in a way that's modern, contemporary, that kids will pick up on it? You know, because everyone's into their iPhone, their mobile phone, tablet, whatever, that technology of today. So for us, what we're doing is, I'm on the ground touching base with everyone to make sure we're using the right story, we're sharing the right information, and we want to make it accessible to the whole community. So that's all that's all that cultural business in the background. But then we use this contemporary tool and we put the language back into it, and we say to the kids, here, this is a story, it's a cartoon, but this is our story. It's in our language, and you put the subtitles there. You know? And it doesn't have to be in English. You can put it in language, or you can put it in, you know, the language of today, which is Yarri lingo. You know, that combination of traditional language and English put together. You put it in that, so the kids can see it, they can hear it. They got this animation, so they want to look at it, and it's mobile. You can put it on your phone, put it on my phone, put it anywhere.
Beautiful.
You know, you can put up the medical center on the flat screen TV. So it's always there.
It's always there.
So it's still our culture, and it's still our story, and it's still our language, but it's just in a contemporary,
innovative
platform.
way.
And you know, and it's there for everyone to access. You know, but at the same time, you know, if there's a story that only certain people should have, well, then we just, in that community consultation, we don't allow those stories to go out, or you know, we make a resource just for that family. So we say, that's for you.
So you're keeping that contemporary, but keeping that cultural grounding. Oh, that's beautiful. You know, I think it's lovely that we can see how our mob reimagine our culture, but bring it back into society, you know, and how culture isn't just a show, it's not just an art piece, you know, it's part of our living and who we are as First Nations mob, you know. And, you know, just from a practical sort of tip as a father, you know, one last little thing before we leave, what are some of the things that you'd advise any mob that are listening and that are wanting to connect and pass on to their next generation, you know, culture and who they are as people, you know, living in a contemporary society?
One thing I'd probably would share, and that just from personal experience, you know, on the journey that I'm currently on, is that if there's any mob out there who are on a similar journey, who are, you know, wanting to pass on cultural knowledge in any way, shape or form, whether it be through language, song, dance, artwork, anything, no matter what the platform is, in my experience, time is against us. So if it's something that you really want to do, don't wait. Just find a way. And do it now. Start today, because you know, I've in my family we've had a lot of our, and I'm sure, you know, Indigenous people right across the world will understand this when I'm saying a lot of our old people are not around. They're going at a very quick rate. You know, and there's lots of issues for that. But if you are a holder of knowledge and you want that knowledge to live, you have to find a way to pass it to that next generation. And you have to, whether it's just through sitting down yarning like this, or whether you've got access to technology, or, you know, writing a song, no matter how you want to get it across, we have to get it across. And it has to be done now. Don't wait.
Don't waste time. And you know, I really appreciate your time and your knowledge and the work that you're doing for our mob, you know, not just because we're family, but because you do it because you love people and you love that culture, you know, you see it in just the way you are, you know, and I just appreciate you sharing your knowledge with everyone today. You got one last word you want to say and add before we close this session?
Yeah, what can I say?
It's a lovely windy day outside, by the way, guys.
Ngajen gapai ngajen bulmba ngajen gapai guring mukoi ngajen walaburi nyangajin ngajen bama binan ngajen bama ngayo nyangajin ngajen kari binan. Just in language I'm saying, you know, that our ways are who we are and they are good. You know, in this contemporary society, we must never forget who we are and where we've come from. And it's only through our generation, listening to our old people, that we stay strong, that we first become strong, and then we stay strong by continually listening to them. But then, when the next generation comes along, we must pass that we must transmit and pass that knowledge to keep the next generation strong.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And that's part of what we all got to do
Part of our
as
journey.
Indigenous people. We have to do that.
Yeah. And just a quick one. I didn't talk about this before, but just a quick one to add. So you're talking about us. We do it as a community, right? And that's one thing that kind of can be, like you're talking about the me, myself, and I. It's all about I. No, it is a community.
It is.
Effort to raise a child. It takes a village, they say, and I think. To be able to do that collectively, and bring back that is important. Yeah.
I mean, you've got stories of up that way, from your mob, how we conducted ourselves, how business was before, colonization.
Yeah.
It was a collective. Everyone had a specific role, but we all come together to operate together for the benefit of all of us.
Yeah.
It was never, you leave somebody out. Unless they did the wrong thing, by that law,
but spear in the leg or something.
But as a group, it was always one. And that's another thing that our old people say was, that concept of those language words, boriguman, that one fire.
Yeah.
In today's world, you see we've got many fires. There's a fire over there. You got one family sitting there. They got their own fire. They're minding their business. You got another fire over there. It might be a little bit bigger. You got more family there. They're minding their own business. But that was never our way. Our way was we had one fire, we all sit around it, we all know our place, we're all welcome there, we all work together. And that's a very important part of my work today as a language activist, is trying to get families back on board and saying, hey, just because I got a passion for it doesn't mean this blank language is mine. This is our language. We have to, you might contribute 1%, that's fine. You bring that 1% and you add it to this fire. Because if you got one fire over there and I got one fire here, next minute we're going to start looking at each other going, well, your fire's smaller than mine, or your fire's bigger than mine. It creates. It's not our way. That's not our culture. Our culture is, no, we work together. We do this together. We're all strong together.
And in terms of a family sort of environment, that would kind of, in particular, the family that we grow up in. You become, instead of father, so uncle, you're bimbi, is it? Yeah. So you're father to the children, and it's a more embedded kinship. So I think that's a beautiful note to kind of leave on, where we all here together. Uriguman. And we appreciate everyone listening, and we hope that you have taken something, and take that to wherever you are. Yarrabah.
Garu.
Yarrabah.